Good morning. We are pausing from our chapter 6 in the religion book to do our November virtue and saint. We will finish chapter 6 tomorrow. So we're going to finish that reading guide tomorrow for chapter 6. Wednesday is a mass day, so we will be having our chapter 6 quiz on Thursday. So let's look at our November virtue is courtesy. Courtesy is being thoughtful of others. This is something that we have talked a lot about in 6th grade. We talked about it in social studies. We've talked about it with our 6th grade values that we have, thinking of other people, thinking of their perspective on things, thinking of what we can do to make sure that everyone feels like they belong. So the word courtesy refers to the medieval royal court. The court was a group of people made up of knights, ladies, and gentlemen. Back then, those terms were official titles indicating ownership of wealth and lands. It was understood that the rich were well educated and knew enough manners to be at ease with royalty. So courtesy is outdated, right? No, that's wrong. We still need to be courteous today. Courteous flows from charity. The medieval royal court was a Christian society. They studied Christ's commands to love God above all and one's neighbor as oneself. The society we live in today tries more and more to remove Christianity from common life. So many people today don't see a problem with being rude or neglecting others to protect and care, or neglecting to protect and care for the most vulnerable members of society. When we practice courtesy, we honor and defer to others out of respect for the dignity of every person as a child of God. We honor God's laws and the boundaries that protect moral behavior between men and women. Good manners without kindness of heart is not courtesy. Courtesy means being thoughtful of others because Jesus told us that whatever we do to them, we do to him. Courtesy is also a humble recognition that none of us are self-sufficient. We depend on others. We can't do it all on our own. We need help from others, and that's okay. We offer small tokens of respect to say thank you for what others are doing for us. It is only fair that we should take care of things and places we share with others because we expect them to do the same out of consideration for us. We share these table spaces with other students when we rotate classes, so take care of it. We share the classroom with our classmates, help take care of it. We share the school, help take care of it. Your house, okay? It's out of courtesy and consideration for others that we help out. So we're going to think about that courtesy, how it's related to stuff we've talked about in the past, and how it's going to be ongoing. This year we're going to continue to talk about being courteous and being kind and considerate of others. Our saint of the month is the Venerable Pierre Toussaint. Pierre Toussaint was born as a slave on the plantation of John Berard in Haiti. Berard noticed that Pierre's grandmother had taught him to read and that he was a bright child, so he assigned Pierre to be a slave in the house rather than in the fields. He opened his library to the boy, encouraged him to study, and treated him as one of the family. During a period of dangerous political unrest in Haiti, the family moved to New York City. The house in New York was so much smaller than the plantation house in Haiti that there was not much for a slave to do. John Berard's young wife suggested that Pierre could be an apprentice to her hairdresser, spending his time to learn a trade. Meanwhile, John returned to Haiti to check on his property and possessions and found them all destroyed. He died while he was there, making his young bride a young widow, stranded in a foreign country without any income. So they moved from Haiti to New York. Then he dies, and his wife is stuck in New York. So she's not familiar with the area. She might just be learning the language, all the customs. So she's in an unfamiliar land. Pierre Toussaint found that the wealthiest ladies appreciated his talent for hairstyling, and he began to make a good profit. Before long, he had enough money to buy freedom for himself and for his sister Rosalie. Pierre purchased his sister's freedom but sacrificed his own. He felt so indebted to the Berard family for the kindness they had shown him that he could not leave the poor young widow defenseless and without means. He knew that it would destroy her dignity to accept gifts of money from him, so he opted instead to remain her slave. As a slave, he asked to take on the responsibilities of running the household, and the mistress agreed. No one from the outside would have guessed the truth that he was not only managing the house, but funding it himself. So all the money he was making from hairstyling, he was giving back to the widow and helping take care of the house. Pierre was saddened to see his mistress sink further and further into depression. He sought to lift her spirits through his constant acts of courtesy toward her. Remembering the good times she had enjoyed in Haiti, he arranged parties at the house and secretly paid for them himself. This seemed to do the trick, and Madame Berard even remarried, but Pierre continued to fund the house. He didn't mind as long as she was happy. On her deathbed, Madame Berard freed Pierre from his slavery, but in truth, it was only a formality. He would have been wealthy had he not funded her household and given the rest of his money to poor people in the city. And his status as a talented hairdresser made him the confidant and counselor of many of the most influential ladies in New York City. After being freed, Pierre continued attending daily mass and helping the poor. He married Juliette Noel, and together they opened a home and school for orphans. They helped many slaves afford freedom, helped poor widows find jobs, and made secret contributions to aristocratic widows to preserve their dignity. When Venerable Pierre Toussaint died at the age of 87, his funeral was packed with crowds of people from all classes and races who had called him a friend. Although divided by many social customs of the time, they all agreed that Pierre Toussaint was a true gentleman, a true Christian, and a saint. Today you can venerate his relics at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, where he is buried among bishops and cardinals. So even though he had enough money to free himself, he thought of the widow. He thought of his sister. He freed the sister, but he stayed to help take care of the widow. He didn't want her on her own. He knew that she wouldn't survive. She was very depressed after her husband died, and being in that strange land, he took care of her. So he gave of himself. Instead of going off and being wealthy on his own, he gave back to somebody who helped him. So he was thinking of others. He was being courteous of others. When he was finally freed and he got married, he still gave back to others. He gave to the poor. He gave to the widows who couldn't take care of themselves. So he always was looking out for other people, even though he had the money, even though he had the ability to live the rich life, he chose to give to others instead. So our activity that we're going to do for this virtue, we're going to work on a virtues project. So here's what we're going to do. Those at home can work on a skit at your house and talk about it with your family. In the classroom, you're going to work with your table group to make a courtesy skit. So you can look at some of these ideas for skits that we have. Think of which of these courtesies need the most improvement in our school, you personally. Okay, think about what you can work on, and you and your table are going to create a short skit showing how we can work on these courtesies. So you're going to pick one courtesy, and you're going to show how we can show that here at school, maybe at home. So think about how we can work on these skits, how we can work on these different courtesies. So we're going to say goodbye to our friends at home, and we hope that you have a good day.